Watch this.
A message of hate sprayed onto a hospital sign as healthcare workers inside fight through crisis standards. Our shows have been pretty full of COVID news lately, so today we're taking some time to answer questions you sent in over the last week. And September snow has made its arrival, but before it made its quick departure, you were able to capture its presence. We are all in this together. Remember that rallying cry from March 2020? Our communities worked hard in the early weeks of the pandemic to make sure that frontline healthcare workers knew we had their back. In spring 2020, we didn't know what we were in for, but the plan was to go it together into the unknown. Well, long story short, that sentiment, all of us together, didn't seem to last very long. As Idaho's COVID situation got worse and worse in recent months and weeks, healthcare workers have been pushed to the extreme. They now work through crisis standards of care every single day. And I've spoken to many healthcare workers and leaders in recent weeks. They tell us people are burning out, understandably. Seriously, how can you expect anyone to deal with what they're dealing on a daily basis and just be okay? Day in and day out, healthcare workers do their absolute best to save very sick people fighting against COVID. Well, the team at St. Luke's and McCall, they got a loud message this weekend. As they continued to work through crisis standards of care, a swastika was sprayed onto a hospital sign. It's hard to ignore that, and it only adds to the heavy burden that the St. Luke's family already carries.
Extremely disheartening. Of course, our staff were the first to see it as they were getting off and coming on shift early Sunday morning.
Amber Green is the chief operating officer at St. Luke's and McCall. She says the swastika vandalism on their hospital comes at a very vulnerable time.
Extremely disheartening. I received several text messages, upset. They were fearful, very emotional moving home. Many of them had a difficult night in our emergency room in which we were taking care of a COVID positive patient who was eventually intubated and shipped to Boise. Very emotional about the potential outcome of that patient, and then leaving the hospital and seeing those signs, of course, was just overwhelming for them.
Green says this type of display just does not happen in McCall.
Certainly not common. I've been here in McCall for the last 4 years and have never seen or heard of anything that's happened like this in McCall. We certainly don't know what the motivation is, and we won't speculate. And honestly, I don't even necessarily believe that it's a reflection on the community, at least that I live in and serve. So really confusing. Again, disheartening, I think, is really the best word that I can come up with.
So to set the scene for you, a hospital in one of our communities was vandalized with Nazi hate symbols as exhausted healthcare workers battle through crisis standards of care.
We don't see the break. In fact, we only see it continually to get worse. And so I think that's where it just becomes more difficult to get up and come to work every day, is knowing that it's busier. We don't have the resources necessary to provide the greatest care that we're accustomed to giving. And it's hard. It's hard for them to get up and to continue to come in.
And I can imagine seeing a swastika vandalized on the hospital. Does it make it any easier to go to work?
No. And not only is there exhaustion now, but there's fear now. And I think the fear that our teams have as they drive in and come to work every day is real. And it's now another emotion that they weren't used to feeling, and just additional layer to how difficult it continues to be.
Swastikas on a hospital during the height of a pandemic is a loud message, but Green reminds us there are other loud messages that can have the opposite effect.
I think first and foremost, I would say just human kindness. We are all feeling the division in our communities, and it's being portrayed in negativity and in actions of hate, much like what you saw in the pictures here at St. Luke's McCall. And I think that if we can all show a little bit of human kindness for those around us, whether they have the same viewpoints as us or not, I think that will go a long way. Any small act of kindness on any of our staff, on any of our patients, even our neighbors would, I think, lift us all, lift our spirits, and help us during this time.
And this is something I want to talk about with all of you at home. Over the last few weeks, I made it a point to ask healthcare workers or healthcare leaders, every time I talk to them, I ask them how they're doing and what the community can do to support them. And I almost always ask, do random messages from strangers, does random support from the community, does it mean anything to you at this point? And the answer almost every single time has been yes. Why? Well, they tell me because our support from the community, it keeps these healthcare workers going, and they need us now more than ever. Think about how much we need them right now. Imagine how much they could use us. So I challenge you, go out of your way this week to thank a healthcare worker or send a kind message to a healthcare system in your area. If not that, maybe something Amber suggested. Do something nice for someone, anyone. We say that this isn't us when things like this happen. When we have gross hate symbols vandalized in our hospitals, I hear so many people say, this isn't us. Well, instead of saying it's not us, let's show them. Let's do something else. And we got a quick look at where our hospitalizations stand, and things are not getting any better for the state of Idaho. We hit another all-time high on Wednesday. 708 people are in the hospital with COVID as of Wednesday, and during our winter surge, our hospitalization high reached just about 500. And as of Wednesday, we had 184 people in our ICUs. We are expecting the state to release a new set of numbers in just a few minutes, so we will keep you updated as that information comes out on the news at 6. We've got an update to a story we first brought you back on Friday's show. Washington Governor Jay Inslee went on national television on Friday afternoon, and he aired out his frustrations with the state of Idaho. Governor Inslee saying that what's not happening in Idaho, like mask mandates and vaccine requirements, well, he says it's having a tremendous effect on what is happening in Washington.
There's way too much me and not enough we when we talk about COVID. People who are not vaccinated, people who are not masked in the appropriate circumstance, are a clear and present danger to everyone. And when the Idaho politicians refuse to act with common sense measures, it not only endangers Idaho citizens, it endangers Washington citizens. And today in my state, Washington citizens in many cases cannot get heart surgery, cannot get cancer surgery that they need because we're having to take too many people of unvaccinated nature and unmasked, many of whom have come from Idaho. And that's just maddening, frankly. So we are calling for Idaho and the leaders there to lead and take some common sense measures.
Strong words. Governor Inslee said that the crisis standards of care that the Panhandle region has been under, and now, of course, the rest of the state is, but he says up in the north part of our state that they've had to send Idahoans across the border to seek medical care in Washington. Well, we reached out to Governor Little's office for a statement on this situation on Friday with no luck, but his office did respond this afternoon saying, quote, Governor Inslee blames Idaho, yet Spokane County and the surrounding area on his side of the border continue to be hotspots for virus activity with the lowest vaccination rates in the entire state of Washington, despite Governor Inslee issuing vaccine mandates and mask mandates. That again from Governor Brad Little here in Idaho. So we fact-checked Governor Little's claims, and he is correct. Spokane County is struggling even with the mask mandate up there. This is a look at all-time COVID hospitalizations for Washington state. As of Friday, nearly 35,000 have had to be hospitalized. You can see that Spokane County, all the way to the right, has been one of the hardest hit. Nearly 3,900 total hospitalizations in Spokane County alone. That's 11% of the state's total number. Right now, 234 people are in Spokane's hospitals, and you can see that, like Idaho, they spiked to all-time highs very recently. But the last few days do show a dramatic drop-off. Now, we don't know how many of those hospitalizations are Idahoans versus Washington residents. We do know, though, that Spokane County is one of the lowest vaccinated counties in Washington, but it's still higher than Idaho's statewide average. Washington state as a whole is up near 70% for fully vaccinated people. Idaho just over 50%. And that number includes only people who are eligible to get the vaccine and not those under 12. Well, the fifth largest crowd in Albertson Stadium history watched the Boise State Broncos fall to the Oklahoma State Cowboys on Saturday night. Final score, 21-20 Cowboys. It was a close game. But the side conversation on Boise State football continues to center on COVID and COVID protocols for home games on the Blue. And as we told you, about 24 hours ahead of kickoff on Saturday, Boise State announced that they would require students to provide a negative COVID test or proof of a first COVID dose of vaccination or complete vaccination. Well, for the October 2nd home game, Boise State says, quote, "We anticipate that all attendees will have to meet this requirement." So some quickly claim that Boise State's policy, again, announced back on Friday, actually violated Governor Little's executive order banning any state of Idaho government entity from requiring vaccine passports. But if you read the executive order and then you read the Boise State policy closely, it's very clear that Boise State did not violate that order. They worded their policy very carefully, saying again, quote, "Fans need to provide a negative COVID test result or proof of first dose or complete COVID vaccination." That's the requirement to get into the game. Well, because fans can provide a negative COVID test instead of vaccine status, Boise State is not requiring a vaccine card. So whether you're vaccinated or not, you can get into the game with a negative COVID test. No need to have any vaccine requirement at all. It's a fair requirement from an organization that tells us they're expecting to house 30,000 people in the same stadium. Remember, this is about preventing the virus from spreading in crowds of thousands of people. From vaccine breakthrough cases to a more controversial take on hospitalizations, we're answering your questions. And there's still time to send us more. COVID related or not, we want to hear from you. And you can text us anytime. Here's the number, 208-321-5614. Make sure to include your name and the hashtag the 208 so we can give you credit. We're going to answer a few questions at the end of the show, but don't worry. If we don't get to yours today, we may get to it during another show. But first, just a few of the dozens of thank you messages we've gotten addressed to our hardworking healthcare heroes. One of our favorite things about the show is getting to answer a lot of questions, and we're able to go through our inbox and pull out some of the most commonly asked questions from over the last week, like this one from Julie, who says, "Can you give another update like you did in early August about the number of breakthrough cases? The chart showing the percentages for each vaccine." Okay, so let's answer Julie's question in two parts. First, so far there have been 4,416 breakthrough cases in the state of Idaho. Let's take a look at those breakthrough cases versus cases in those who were not vaccinated. We'll show you data here. This is from May 15th of this year until just yesterday. May 15th because that is the day that everyone over the age of 12 became eligible to get a vaccine in Idaho. So you can see it's laid out by cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. And on the left, you can see that 4,416 breakthrough cases. Of those, 164 people were hospitalized, 43 died. Now compare that to those who were unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated on the right side. More than 39,000 cases. Of those, nearly 1,700 were hospitalized, 316 later died. As for the second part of Julie's question, that answer has to come from the Department of Health and Welfare. They have all the records at their department. Last month, they did provide us with the information we were looking for, which vaccines saw the most breakthrough cases. Today, the Department of Health and Welfare told us, quote, "The data we can adequately and responsibly provide is available on the state's coronavirus website." And as of today, that information is not available on the dashboard. But Julie, thank you for the question, and we will continue to ask. On to our next one. Mike asks, can you make sense of the no difference between Pfizer's EUA and Comirnaty? It's a great question, Mike. So a little background: about a month ago, the FDA changed Pfizer's status from emergency use authorization, as I just tried to say, the EUA, and then they became a full-fledged vaccine, as we reported. Now, once that happened, the FDA announced that it would be marketing the vaccine as Comirnaty. So what are the differences? Are there any? Well, the FDA says no, they are the same shot. They contain messenger RNA, commonly known as mRNA, which is a kind of genetic material that mimics proteins in a virus. Now, that mRNA is only in your body for just enough time so that your immune system will react defensively to it, so it knows how to fight it off should you ultimately come into contact with COVID. So same as the new Pfizer shot, just with a different name. It's administered in 2 series of doses, 3 weeks apart. However, Pfizer is still under emergency use authorization status for those between the ages, I should say, of 12 and 15. And finally, this question from Casey asking, with the crisis standards of care in Idaho now, why don't they put the people who are not vaccinated at the bottom of the line? They obviously aren't concerned about others. Well, we've gotten this question several times, and we actually get it almost every day. And the answer for you is simple. Our doctors and nurses took an oath to help everyone, regardless of their life choices. Crisis standards of care means that the sickest of the sick will get treatment first, regardless of vaccine status. They will still get the same level of treatment as a patient who is vaccinated. And we've heard from several of our healthcare workers treating patients every single day. And while all of them say that they wish their patients were all vaccinated, this isn't a political issue for them. They will continue to treat everyone to the best of their ability, no matter how long it takes. 103 days until 2022, 96 days until Christmas, only 41 to go till Halloween, and how about this, just 2 days until the official start of fall. But Mother Nature decided it was time to start the season early in Idaho's mountains. Have any non-COVID related story ideas for us? Maybe a comment about how we're doing? Send us a message, 208-321-5614. Make sure to include your name and the hashtag #the208. Got a weird sight for you that was spotted at the Lewiston Airport on Friday night. Take a look at this picture. It's an airplane, as you can see, tipped backwards with passengers still inside, including members of the University of Southern California football team. Fight on, Trojans. Well, the Trojans, they're on their way to Pullman to take on the Washington State Cougars. They landed in Lewiston. They planned on making the quick drive to Pullman, but they were exiting the plane and it tipped. United Airlines says there was a shift in weight as luggage was being unloaded. The plane was eventually leveled and no one was hurt. There's a kicker joke in here, or there's a joke about the lineman sitting in the back of the plane. I'm not exactly sure what the joke is here, but that's quite a sight.
Beautiful, picture perfect day for us today, following pretty wild weather that we had over the weekend. But this is not necessarily feeling like the last couple of days of summer, more like the beginning of fall. 66 degrees in Boise, 61 in Twin Falls. Check out the temperatures in our mountain valleys in the 50s right now, but some beautiful puffy cumulus clouds over the higher elevations. Our skies over the valley will remain clear overnight tonight, so we're headed for another cold start to the day tomorrow, much like where we were this morning. So plan for the upper 30s, close to 40 degrees for low temperatures Tuesday morning in the Treasure Valley. If you have to head out to the bus stop, then you'll certainly want to bundle up for that. The full harvest moon tonight, also a late moon, the fourth full moon in the summer season, rises at 8:06 or sunset this evening at 7:45. So take a look at that view in the sky. It's always best as it's coming up over the horizon, and that'll be the east-southeast horizon for us. Now the cool, unsettled weather, the wild weather that I mentioned over the weekend, it is moving off to the east, but we're still under this northwest flow that's keeping us dry, crystal clear blue skies across the valley today and cool temperatures, but high pressure and this ridge will ultimately be our weather story for the rest of the week. So we're in for a warming trend as we get into the first weekend of fall, with fall officially kicking off on Wednesday. Magic Valley forecast for tomorrow, cold start wrapping up in the low 70s, a freeze for many of our mountain valleys expected again for tomorrow morning. West Central Mountains, that includes you, 68 degrees for a high in McCall, warmer than today and a lot closer to seasonal averages for this time of year. This is about where we should be for the final days of the summer season. 77 for a high in Boise, and a lot of sunshine is going to stick around with us for the rest of the week. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast. As we get a weak weather system to brush by late Wednesday into Thursday, that'll bump our temperatures down a touch, but still very pleasant and seasonably warm as we head through the rest of the week, back into the mid-80s for the weekend.
Well, you just heard Bree mention it. Fall officially kicks off on Wednesday, but as some of us are trying to enjoy the last few hours of summer, Mother Nature had much different ideas, including snow. Some of our mountain areas, including the Sawtooths near Stanley, you can see behind me, I saw dusting over the weekend, an early season dusting in September. It's the first snowfall of the season. Don't believe us? Well, you can check out these beautiful pictures from our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook. All right, let's take a look at your comments, questions, maybe a recipe. Danny, we ever got a recipe? I don't know. This one's from Jan. Jan says, how about a shout out to all those medical laboratory specialists behind the scenes? They've been working to exhaustion from the beginning of this all. Jan raises a good point. There's a lot of frontline healthcare workers that you may not think about every day. Think about maybe the folks from Norco, for example, that go into homes and they set up for people that need COVID treatment. Of course, as Jan mentioned, people behind the scenes. Bob says, I'd just like to give a shout out to all of our healthcare workers that are working these long hours and long days. Thank you so much, Bob, and to all of you that sent in really kind comments. Finally, this person says, I missed the update, but where's Brian? Where is Brian? Brian? Okay, well, we're gonna have to find Brian. We'll be back tomorrow.